Good morning, students. This is Asha, your social science teacher. I welcome you to fifth lecture of Civics, Chapter 1, the Indian Constitution. So, in previous lecture, we discussed about key features of parliamentary form of government. We discussed about federalism, and we discussed some interesting and amazing facts of Indian Constitution, like its being lengthiest constitution, how much time it took, and before that we discussed why constitution is important, why is it needed in democratic society. All that we have already discussed, and we discussed about the Nepal case study also, how things have changed. So today we'll discuss parliamentary form of government, right? We'll be discussing parliamentary form of government. So Indian Constitution adopts for parliamentary form of government. What happens in parliamentary form of government? The main feature of parliamentary form of government is that cabinet or council of ministers are legally responsible to legislature for its policies and act. So in parliamentary form of government, you have a Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and a president. Lok Sabha is also known as the lower house of the lower parliament because members are directly elected, whereas Rajya Sabha is known as upper house because they are not directly elected. And these council, cabinet and council party, whichever is the leader, is the winning party. The prime minister and his cabinet and council of ministers, whatever decision they take, they are answerable to Lok Sabha. They have to. So one of the main features of parliamentary form of government is that prime minister we have chosen as a leader of a country, and his minister, cabinet ministers, they are not independent or to do whatever. They are answerable to the parliament. They have to answer for their policies, whatever they take, decisions. In India, Prime Minister and other ministers are responsible for to Lok Sabha for its act. And at state level, Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers are responsible to Vidhan Sabha. Like in center, we have Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. At state, we have Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. So the states which are unicameral, they have only Vidhan Sabha, and the states which are bicameral, they have Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad both. So Chief Minister and his Council of Ministers, whatever policies they make, whatever decision they take, they are responsible to answer to Vidhan Sabha. Whereas there are form of government like presidential form of government in United States, the Council of Minister and Presidents are not answerable to Congress or the member of House. They are only answerable to President. So this is a difference and contrast which we have adopted. We have adopted a parliamentary form of government where every individual who is the top has to answer. He is answerable. He has to answer what he or she is doing. So that's about the parliamentary form of government. That's the second main feature of our constitution. First was federalism, second is parliamentary form of government, third is fundamental rights and duties. These rights are given to protect the citizen against the arbitrary use and absolute exercise of power by the state. Here, the word state means government, right? The state means government. We studied the story of choosing a leader where Suresh was arbitrarily using his power. So, fundamental rights guard the person against such misuse of power. So, there are 6 fundamental rights which we will study. First is right to equality. Second is right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and fundamental rights, right to constitutional remedies. So when we talk about right to equality, what all is included in this? All persons are equal before law. So this means that all persons shall be equally protected by the law of the country. It also states that No citizen can be discriminated against on the basis of their religion, caste, or sex. Every person has access to all public places, including playgrounds, hotels, shops, etc. And the state cannot. It means government cannot or people in power cannot discriminate against anyone in matters of employment. But there are exceptions to this that I'll explain you. Right to equality exception will be doing in next chapter. Now the next is right to freedom. So what all is included in right to freedom? This includes that right to freedom of speech and expression, the right to form associations, the right to move freely and reside in any part of the country, and right to practice profession, occupation, or business. So in freedom you get all these freedom of speech, expression, to form association, to move freely and reside anywhere in our country, and right to practice any profession. Nobody can stop you from doing any kind of profession or work. So all these things are included in right to freedom. Next is right against exploitation. So, this includes the Constitution prohibits human trafficking, forced labor, and employment of children under 14 years of age. So, nobody can exploit anybody on that like child trafficking, forced labor. All these things come under right against exploitation. Next fundamental right is right to freedom of religion. Religious freedom is provided to all citizens. Every person has a right to practice, profess, propagate their religion and their choice. So, whatever religion you belong, you have full right and freedom to go ahead with your religion. That's the right to freedom of religion. Next is cultural and educational right. It includes Constitution states that all minorities, religious or linguistic, can set up their own educational institute. Religious minority or the any kind of linguistic minority, they can set up their own educational institute in order to preserve, develop their own culture. You must have heard of Gurdwara, Madarsa. There are many schools run by Gurdwara. There are many schools run by Christian missionaries and Madarsas. So, cultural and educational right ensure them to have their own set up their own educational institute to propagate their religion. So, this is the fifth right. And the sixth right is right to constitutional remedies. What it does, this allows citizens to move to court if they believe that any of their fundamental right have been violated by state. So we have discussed 5 fundamental right, and if a person believes any of his right is being violated, an individual can move to court and seek help if any of the right is being violated. So this is known as constitutional remedies, the right to constitutional remedies. Besides that, there is one more right which has been added, and that is right to information. It is equally important. It came into existence in 2005, where any individual has full right to get information of government working on what they are working. They can, all government institution, even the courts have come under right to information. So an individual can ask for any kind of information from anybody. That's the right to information. These are the fundamental rights. So children, all rights have corresponding duties attached to it. Rights, we were just discussing fundamental rights, but there are fundamental duties as well. Rights and duties are interlinked. Every right has a corresponding duty. Right cannot exist in isolation. For example, freedom of speech cannot be allowed to hurt others' feeling or inciting peoples to write. So if I have been given a freedom of speech, that doesn't mean I can go on saying anybody and inciting other peoples. So it's my duty that I speak responsibly. So rights and duties are interlinked. The 42nd Amendment of Act 1976 added a new part to Constitution. Under this amendment, fundamental duties were added. Article 51A speaks of 11 fundamental duties of citizens of India. There are total 11 fundamental duties which are described in Article 51A, and it contains some fundamental duties such as protect the unity of India and safeguard the public property. There are many which are the, as an individual, as a person of in this country, it's your duty to respect the unity, safeguard its public property. All these things are included in fundamental duties of a country. So children, tomorrow we'll discuss secularism and directive principle, and today we discussed about fundamental rights and duties, and we discussed federalism in detail. And tomorrow, the sixth lecture, will discuss the remaining part and we'll discuss question answers. That's all for today. Thank you.